welcome back to the corner of Tech and Fruit Street here on the campus of Carnegie Mellon University. It is day 2 of Buggy here during Carnival, and it's a bit chillier today, a bit more overcast than yesterday. Had a beautiful, beautiful day 1, and we are getting set to start the women's final heats. Now, a couple of notes before we start. There is some possibility of precipitation. There already was some earlier today, so it's a bit touch and go. But right now, we are planning on starting the women's heats in just around 8, maybe a little after 8. And so we will keep you updated on that. I'm Tyler Alderson alongside Jess Thurston. There will be the women's heats. There will be a men's reroll, which will be SAEA. And then after that, it will be the men's final heats. Right now, as you can see, we are getting set up for the first women's heat.
Yeah, and that first heat is going to be SIG-EP A and SDC C. So it's an exciting heat to start right off with. Just to remind everyone, we have 3 women's heats today for the finals, so 6 top teams, and I'm personally really excited to see CIAA as one of those teams, and 3 SDC teams, so that'll be exciting to see how they pull that off.
And yes, it's starting off the day. We have SIG-EP A versus SDC C. Heat 2 is SDC B versus Spirit A, and Heat 3 is SDC A versus CIA A. So those are your 3 women's heats. The men's heats, there will be 5 of them, and there will also be 1 men's reroll before that. As I said before, we are currently planning on about 10 minutes between each start. So the first women's heat should be underway in a few minutes, and we will be bringing you all the heats after that. So to take a look at this slate here, we have 3 SDC teams. Where do you see SDC placing today if you were to be a betting woman?
Yeah, well, I think we all saw how my predictions went yesterday, and they might have been a bit of a jinx, so I don't mean for that to be the case. I think it's going to be SDCA, SDCB, and I would love to see Spirit A sneak up higher in the list. I think they can do it, and they showed yesterday that any issues they had in the past about spinning and not really mixing wheels and buggies and drivers the right ways in the past. So I'm hoping they can get a little more aggressive and really challenge SDC.
And SIG-EP A, CIAA, do you see them possibly challenging for that 3rd spot as well?
Oh, SIG-EP A definitely. Yeah. No, I don't see CIA doing that too high. But I think that the 252 is really impressive. And overall yesterday, it was actually somewhat typical women's heats, just in the sense that there's always sort of a bigger variation between those times. And the fastest time each year can be so different. But, SDCA with the 230, it's crazy. And I think at the stop sign we saw them with, our timing might have been a little bit off, but somewhere around a minute. Am I saying that right? Which is, 10 seconds behind the fastest men's team. It's insane. So
SDCA yesterday was the top team with time of 2 minutes 30 seconds .684. They were closely followed by SDCB at 2 minutes 37 seconds .304. I'm guessing the SDC time that I have written down here of 2 minutes 20 seconds was the men's time.
That's right. Yep.
But SIG-EP A had a time of 2:42.356, and CIAA had a time of 2:52.575. So there was a pretty big gap there, even between SDCA and SDCB.
It's a pretty big gap, but it's also pretty typical for women's heats to have that sort of gap. That said, SDCB, I can't really speak to their women's B team, but the buggy itself being Malice, and it looks like Rachel's such a great driver in it already. I mean, she could go faster than 237.
And unfortunately, one of the teams that we are not seeing today is Fringe, a bit of a scary moment there for the women's A team, as there was a crash. And then right following that, there were actually two more crashes.
That's right.
Right behind the two buggies behind. Luckily, everyone's
okay.
is okay, but unfortunately, the French women's A was disqualified.
Yeah, and it's really tough to watch. I mean, from a personal standpoint, but also, everyone knows that Bonsai is one of those buggies that it's a turning point for Buggy as a whole, and even if they're not your favorite team, you kind of want to see it do well. And, if nothing else, Becky's an awesome driver, and it's good to have people like her on the course. So that's a scary incident, and it's, those two, following incidents happened because they were forced to brake quickly. And first of all, what was great and shows the great training of the drivers is that they did stop. They responded to the stop flags, which has been an incident in the past. Sometimes the adrenaline is rushing. You kind of just want to blow past it. You don't even process, like, hey, I should brake right now. But especially Mamba, the Siget buggy in that heat, really took a spin and hit the curb. But so really good to see that she was okay.
And we were fairly lucky yesterday. We should say that there was some contact, as there almost always is. But all in all, it was a fairly clean day, especially once we got to the men's heats. There weren't a lot of crashes, wasn't a lot of really bad contact.
Right. I know that might not be super exciting for people at home, but like we were saying yesterday, every chairman just is so happy when you see your team go through a relatively boring heat, and you're like, yes, that's exactly what I wanted to see. But I think we'll show later on today, hopefully, some clips of those incidents. For example, with Delta Force just kind of taking ownership over that course and really making contact with a few buggies. And then we also had some contact in a re-roll. But then there was the heat with, I guess, was it women's SDC D with Avarice, and the Spirit buggy got so close without actually colliding. I mean, that was awesome.
Yeah, that's certainly makes things interesting.
Yeah.
As you say, and if you can make things interesting without actually making them dangerous,
that's right.
Then that's even
that's
better.
always that line that Buggy is trying to tiptoe along, I think.
So we are just waiting here. We're getting set for the first heat. Let's look at the rosters here. SIGEP A will be in lane 1. Their buggy is Barracuda, which was built in 2009. Sylvia Manalash is driving, and pushing is Lindsay McGillivray, Jennifer Chewy, Phoebe Rahi Ghosh, and Usa Rising.
I think Lisa.
Lisa. That looks
My
like
bad on the handwriting. That's on me, guys.
It's okay. And in lane 3 is SDCC with the oldest buggy, I believe, on the course today.
Seraph is a year or two older, but Seraph has had its issues, as has Rage. But just to see it as a C team and placing this highly, it's like, that's it's impressive.
It's built in '96 and still rolling.
Yeah, and rolling well.
Driven by Vivian Wong, and we have Rebecca Piston, Dorothy Yu, Caroline McCool, Elise Yim, and Sue Weidenbach pushing there for SDCC. That heat is coming up in just a bit as we are getting set. The roads were a bit wet.
Yes.
Earlier, and so part of the waiting has been to make sure that the roads are dry enough, especially down in the chute.
Yeah.
Where we know it's already tough to make that turn,
That's right.
and to add a little bit of water in there. We are being told that there is a 5-minute delay, so we will have another 5 minutes or so before the first heat will start, and. We hope, though, and it seems from looking at the course, at least to my eyes, that everything is fairly dry.
Oh, yeah. And the front hills especially are really okay. It sounded like the chute was more wet than the rest of the course, which can happen, and I don't really know why that is. I think just that's Pittsburgh playing games. It also looks like lane 1 is not going to be used. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe it's more wet at the bottom. But that's, that's actually kind of a curveball. Lane 1 is something. Oh, okay. There's a car. Lane 1 is really desirable as a driver. There's the fewest issues with it. I mean, now that the front hills have been repaved, that is less of an issue, but it sets you up for your most ideal line, because when you're practicing throughout rolls throughout the year, you kind of set up near the top of lane 1 and go from there. So it's almost a comfort factor too. But so I'm guessing they'll just do 2 and 3, which will now add that issue of what happens if there's sort of a lane interference, and that's always an interesting conundrum for sweepstakes to deal with.
And that's something, unfortunately, that we saw yesterday as well. We had a couple of DQs for the men. CIAC made contact during a pass. We actually weren't able to show that on the jumbotrons or on the screen because that was during, I believe, STCA's
I think so.
heat, and they were quite ahead.
Yeah.
And then there was a lane interference there with Spirit A. They had a pretty good run. Unfortunately, it looked like the pusher, the Hill 1 pusher, he fell down and he was trying to move out of the way.
Right.
And unfortunately, he moved out of the way into the path of another buggy. There was no contact, but right there, even if there is no contact, that is enough to disqualify.
It is, and that's one of those things. Like, do you want to take out a team for that kind of issue? But in that sort of case, when he could really be distracting a driver, even something as simple, and this might sound dramatic, but something as simple as lots of crowds standing around in that bend. If you're in lane 3, for example, just those shadows can be disorienting. Actually, we are.
Oh, we are being told there's a car on the course. There is a car down. I believe it's actually blocking lane 1.
That's our lane 1 interference.
And yes, so there, if you are the owner of a white
styling
Chevy
Cruiser, I think.
No, I believe that is the HHR. That is the white HHR. It's a nice looking car, and I might claim it if you don't. So please move your car. I believe the license plate number is something. Well, I won't try to read it.
If you parked on Hill 1 and that sounds like your car, maybe come to it.
Yes, if you drive a white Chevy HHR, then please move it because buggies will crash into it, and you will not be happy. They will not be happy. We will not be happy. Really, everyone will not be happy. Here we go. We have the license plate number is FJU 4753. It's got a lovely pastoral scene from the state of Ohio on the license plate. We are going to be. It looks like we are going to be starting in lanes 2 and 3 in just a short minute or so. We do right now, though, have some people looking into the car there, the white car. So if that is your car, again, I can't repeat this enough, please do move that if you are listening. And it looks like we have
Buggy's ready to go.
Buggy's ready to go. Now they are lining up. It looks like SIGAP A is lining up in sort of the edge of lane 1. And it's going to be interesting to watch as they are off. There is a bit of a lag for the clock that you see on the screen. So that clock is not very accurate at all. It's at least a few seconds behind. And right now we're looking at SIGAP A getting actually a pretty nice push here.
Yeah,
as they
nice transition. And it looks like they were able to cleanly use the edge of lane 1, so that's good for them.
And here they go into free rolls, and unfortunately we aren't really able to give you an accurate time up there. That clock is about 5 seconds off. Right here in the free roll, we'll get to see whether Fringe can make a move, or sorry, SDC can make a move on SIGAP A, but it looks like
I'm going to guess she's going to keep pulling away. SIGAP, like we were talking about yesterday, they're great at all of a sudden bringing everything together on race day and, prepping their wheels in the best way and having their driver ready in the best way and having their pushers go all out all at once. And because of that, they have a pretty clean system, and it looks like, Sylvia's doing great.
Now, it will be interesting as SIGAP is nearing the chute. We'll get a good shot of the chute.
It's a great line.
Fairly clean line.
Really
Looks
great.
like the chute is pretty dry there as well, which is always good.
And this is a buggy that it has had its fair share of spins or wheel losses in past years in the chute, and she's always a trooper through all of that. But the fact that buggy got through cleanly is a good sign for the rest of the day.
And here we are transitioning into Hill 4. This is a pretty nice roll here for SIGEP A, quite clean, as we see SDCC a little ways behind them. Right now making the transition into Hill 4.
Sporting those yellow wheel covers again today. Wonder if it's just for the looks. I can appreciate that. It's totally fine.
And here is Sue Weidenbach picking it up. Here's Lisa Rising for SIGEP A picking it up on Hill 5.
It's a pretty quick Hill 5. And again, this is one of those dangerous times. Do you shove it and give it the most speed you can and just bet that you'll be able to catch up, or do you do the bump and run and keep it close? She's taking some bets. Hopefully she'll catch that push bar.
Here it is. She will try to get it as it goes across. She does as she crosses the finish line. And SGC is coming right up behind as Sue Weidenbach gets it over the finish line there. So that is your first women's finals heat. We will get you the official times as the buggies go over to drops. We'll get you official times as we hear them. Right now we're hearing 2:41 for SIGEP A.
Good for them. You know, that's at least a second faster than they went yesterday. And with this kind of weather and the cold and, you know, the early morning, it's impressive to drop even just that much speed.
And 2:57.
Oh, 2:52
for SDCC. So both fairly good times. For SDCC, unfortunately, we don't have...
you know, I think it was right around there, and that's a respectable C-team time for sure.
Now, yesterday we talked a lot about the weather. The weather was fantastic, as you
Beautiful.
can see. I believe that's SIGEP that just passed drop test, and
Good.
here is SDC. We talked about the weather. It was beautiful, sunny day, quite warm. Now, as a driver and coming into today, what are some adjustments that you're going to have to make with the road's not wet, but it was. There
Right.
might still be some residual moisture, and it's definitely a lot colder.
Yeah, well, even just the fact that it's colder outside, it sounds silly, but you kind of have to psych yourself up for it because you want to feel like it's still really hot. You want to, you know, tell yourself that the streets are totally crowded and that everyone's out there cheering for you. And so you have to wear a little bit more in the buggy. You have to feel warmer yourself, but you can't let it get into your head about, you know, the road conditions, because that's the role of sweepstakes. You know, if they're determining that it's safe to roll, then that's the time, you know, as a driver or as a mechanic to say, okay, you know, they've said what we can do or can't do. Now I'm just gonna complete my line. And you know, I was lucky. I was in a buggy that could handle even more wetness than this and would be okay. But you know, for those drivers, especially in standard trike systems or on those really fast wheels with a little profile, you know, it can be scary, and it does feel different, especially when the wind picks up. And a lot of drivers will say they start to feel it around the stop sign. That's when you can kind of start getting a little wind to your tail. And you try to put it out of your head, but be aware of, you want to take the smoothest line you can, mess with your steering as little as possible, and then just own it.
And you can see, I believe that that car is still in the sort of right edge of lane 1, and so we are still waiting for that to be cleared. We are coming up on the second heat. That will be SDCB and Spirit A. That will be coming up shortly.
I think we're about 2.5 minutes out.
And we can...
Oh, okay.
And we're just waiting on confirmation with the weather the way that it is, and we're trying to essentially make sure that we can get all of the finals in. We were originally going to have actually 15 minutes between each start gun, but right now we're just waiting. So we're going to throw up a nice little package cmuTV has put together for your viewing pleasure.
That is the perfect combination of terrifying and fun. My favorite part of Buggy is having sleepy interactions with the rest of SIGUP at 5 a.m. It feels just like they're a big family, you know, and all the new little drivers we get are like little sisters, like little additions to the family, so the team is the best part. You lost one and so fly away over the clouds, under the sky. Never come back and run away with all your mind. Give up you. I don't believe anymore your shallow hearts know that it's you. I think they're really caring and that they really like take care of their drivers and of everyone else on their team. Now you are left with nothing. One time, I think my first time ever driving a Buggy, my hatch went flying off, and so I had to stop the Buggy, and EMS came like running at me. I drive for SIGUP.
And that was a great profile there. We have a lot of these team profiles that we've been playing for the past couple days. It's always fun to talk to the drivers and to, see what they think. I can't imagine. I would never fit in a Buggy, first of all.
You know what? There are some Buggies you would fit in. So keep your dream alive.
Maybe someday. But I think it's fascinating to think about all the amount of work that goes into this. And, you know, people say that as well, it's 1 year for essentially 2 minutes or 3 minutes of actual race time.
Hopefully closer to 2, yeah. Absolutely right, but, you know, as Mark was saying yesterday, that's what makes it fun. If you could have a million shots at this, then fine, then you just start looking at averages and say, like, well, we're kind of near the top. You want to know, coming out on race day, really where you stand, and it's just 2 minutes, but I don't think anyone actually doing Buggy feels that way, because they see it as, you know, it's a lot of time on the course, and it looks like we're 2 minutes out, by the way, from the next heat.
We're 2 minutes out, so let's take a look at this second heat. STCB will be in lane 1. They'll be pushing Malice, which was built in 2009, driven by Rachel Chow. They had a preliminary time of 2 minutes 37.304 seconds. They have Emily Lee, Samantha Skinger, Abby Ondeck, Jess Rin, and Amy Zhang pushing for SDCB. Spirit A is pushing Seraph, driven by Britt Robertson. They had a preliminary time of 2 minutes 50.859 seconds. And their push team is Idre Rodriguez, Jessica Lee, Nkem Chikhevenda, Elisa Etanoff, and Silala Graham Haynes. As you can see, Spirit A is in lane 3. They're set up. SDC always plays
it is
pretty
so precise.
close.
You know, even at Rolls, you hear the countdowns, and it's not a joke. They really are down to the second.
Here they are now, getting ready in lane 1. Now, as you can see, they're going to the sort of edge of lane 1. They want to keep as much space between the Buggies as possible, but they obviously also want to avoid this white Chevy parked there. And here we are is Idre Rodriguez pushing for Spirit A and Emily Lee for SDCB. Both of them off to strong starts.
You know, I don't know what's going to happen in this heat. I'm pushing for Spirit A just because it'd be really nice to see them at the top of the leaderboard, but SDCB is not a team to mess with.
And it looks like SDCB is opening up a little bit of room here on the Hill 2 transition as they run right by us and into the free roll, about 35 seconds or so, as Spirit A goes right into the free roll after them.
You know, Spirit stays pretty consistent throughout their role, and Britt is a great driver. She's very calm when you speak to her. You know, she's very serious about the team, which I really like. And Malice is one of those buggies that it honestly looks like it gains speed. You know, you look at it, and it could be standing still, and you're probably like, that's just going to take off. You know, it's just a really fast
About
buggy.
a minute 4 to the stop sign for SDCB.
That's
about
very
a
fast.
minute 9 for Spirit A.
A little bit of shakiness, it looks like, but I'm sure she'll take a clean line coming into the chute flag.
And here she is going in.
Beautiful. And, you know, again, SDC has had its fair share of issues in the chute. We saw yesterday their A-team definitely probably scared her mechanics a bit, but good to see Malice get through okay.
And here is Abby on deck picking it up for SDCB, as we have Spirit A right behind them, making the Hill 4 transition is SDC. And another pretty clean run. There was obviously with the rain some talk about the conditions, but the conditions look pretty good.
Yeah.
If a little cold.
Definitely cold. I don't think I'd love to be pushing right now for just so many reasons.
Yeah, and the shorts and tank tops. I guess if you're running, maybe it's a little better, although we can see him skipping around there trying to keep warm. And here's Hill 5, Amy Zhang coming down for SDCB as she's nearing the finish line here. And it looks like she'll get in the upper 230s.
Definitely slower than yesterday by a few seconds.
238 there. It's about a second or so off.
And again, as we get more final times, we'll share them with everyone.
And here is Spirit A coming across at about 251. That's another about a second off what their time was yesterday, which is to be expected given the weather conditions and the fact that we also have had because of the weather, had to be a bit touch and go on the actual start times. As you can tell from SDC's precision, a lot of this does come to a rhythm. I mean, how much when the schedule changes, if you're a team, how much does that mess with your internal?
It really messes with you. And a lot of that comes down, well, it's two main things. One, you want to make sure your push team is kept in the loop. Sometimes you don't want to send them to the hills too early because you want them to stay together as a team and make sure they're on the same page. You also want to make sure you don't lose track of your driver. It happens. And
they're so small. It's
they're
hard
so
to misplace
tiny. They
them.
can just, they could be anywhere. The biggest issue comes down to how teams prepare their wheels differently, and some teams have, large components of their buggy are actually removed so that the driver can load. So that's another piece you have to be able to time for. And obviously there's a lot of different ways to prepare wheels that we probably won't get into, and teams wouldn't love it if I did that, I think. But it certainly messes with your time. It's something that is calculated beforehand, and you try to add some leeway in, but at some point it's, science or something.
And as you can see, both teams seem to have passed the drop test there. That's quite important, as even though you hope not to use the brakes.
That's right.
You certainly have to have a set of functioning ones. If you
do.
are to do.
And drops in this sort of dampness are tough too, because the sidewalk dries differently than the pavement, and I'm sure in a very small way. But even just that, or the little bit of wetness that could be on the course and could be picked up onto the wheels throughout the run, it makes teams nervous. And with the rise of more polyurethane wheels, teams are still getting used to them. So figuring out how to brake on them in general is tough.
All right, and we have a music video prepared by the folks at cmuTV coming up. Oh, we actually do not have a music video prepared by the folks. I'm just being funny.
Yeah, we're here to play with you guys, so it's fine.
Now taking a look at, we have now just one more heat left. Obviously, SDC has been the favorite. Really going into it, it was. Well, Fringe or SDC, and since Fringe is out, SDC has sort of had that path cleared.
Yeah.
If you're SDC though, you know, any nerves going into this?
Always, and you know, they're one of those teams that is more affected than others by any sort of inclement weather. So I would be nervous from that standpoint. But the good thing is, not only do they have really a lead on all the other teams, their B team looks like it just put itself in first place for now too. So because they have a bit of a comfort zone, I say they play it a little bit safe, which is not SDC's style per se, and I totally respect that. But having gotten a 230 yesterday, they can slow down a little bit if it makes them more stable through the shoot.
And it looks like we have generally a bit of about a second or so difference that we've seen between times. Actually, SIG
Although in the good way for SIG
was able to actually better their time. SDCB and Spirit A both ran about a second slow, which was not in any way because of mistakes. In fact, both of them had very clean runs.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just a function of the weather and the course.
It is, and you know, that SIG time getting even just a second faster makes me think that their mechanics really buckled down last night and did something to make the buggy that much more precise. And Barracuda is one of those buggies that I really like because it's simple and it's lightweight, and the driver, there's just a really good match between the driver and the buggy, and it has pretty simple steering, and it just gets the job done. And I think that's why it's kind of easy for them to tweak and make that much better. And it looks like we're about 3 minutes out.
All right, we are 3 minutes from the final women's heat. We have one men's re-roll after that. That will be SAEA, and then we will continue with the men's finals. Again, much of the schedule is somewhat tentative, as you can see if you're watching at home or here on the course. The skies are actually, unfortunately, getting a bit grayer.
Yeah, a little ominous.
As we speak. There was a bit of a sprinkling earlier that has thankfully dried up as we have the 2-minute warning here before the race. And we're just hoping that we can, if anyone knows an anti-rain dance.
Yeah, please do it.
Please do it.
I think all the teams would be happy. I know, I don't know what's going to happen with the men's, but Fringe is certainly looking to clean up, especially their front hills, where they really seemed to lose time yesterday, and see if they could beat SDCA. Now, whether or not the men's happens, we still want to at least get this last women's heat in, and I know SDC wants to prove again that they deserve to be in the top place for women's.
And we would like to remind you, just in case you are unaware, as happened last year, if the heats do not happen for the finals, then the preliminary heat times become the final times. Last year, of course, we had rain out, just complete rain out, and so we just had the 1 day of pushing, so those times stood as the final times.
Yep.
We're hoping that doesn't happen today. Let's take a look at the two teams. We have CIA A in lane 3, SDCA in lane 1. SDC is pushing Bane, which they built in 2011. Melissa Yeeps driving. Their time in the preliminary heat was 2 minutes 30 seconds, .684. And their push team is Crystal Ray, Emily Wright, Courtney Chin, Jennifer Elson, and Cecilia Zishkan. And CIAA is in lane 3. You can see them there. They are pushing Ascension, which was also built in 2011, driven by Allison Lim. Their time was 2 minutes 52 seconds, .575. We've got Natalie French, Allison McKnight, Rachel Brown, Miranda McCoy, and Sophie Zimmerman. And you can see Natalie French and Crystal Ray both racing here as SDC
already
starts
flying
to pull away. And SDC is certainly looking quite strong here as we're approaching the Hill 2 transition. And so far, quite a clean transition there into the free roll at about 29 seconds or so. And that is by far the best time that we've seen.
Oh, yeah. And, you know,
today.
Bane is Such a great buggy. It looks a lot like Malice. I have no idea how similar it might be mechanically. It's purple for those of you that
Paint
can't
job
tell. It's really nice. And you know, you see it being built last year. There were 3 really solid buggies that came out. And it was Bane, Ascension, also in this heat, with which CIA unseated Fringe in design comp.
59 seconds to the stop sign for SDC.
Really fast.
And unfortunately, we couldn't. SDC is so far ahead of CIA at this point, we could not get you their time. Here is a turn into the chute.
Very clean through the chute.
SDCA having a really remarkable role so far. As Bane gets picked up there.
And we see CIA come through as well.
Both drivers doing a nice job there, avoiding any drama.
Yeah, really nice to see all 6 teams doing okay, getting through the course cleanly.
Here's Jennifer Elkin.
With those shoes that I want. Oh my gosh. Matching the wheels on the course.
Doing a nice job here as we approach the 2-minute mark. We have the transition into Hill 4 for CIA. And here's Cecilia Zishkam for SDC. Pushing Hill 5 and approaching the finish line again. They had a preliminary time of 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Very fast for a women's team.
And it looks like they might even beat that here
Wow.
or get quite close to it as SDC crosses the finish line at 2:29 about.
Awesome.
So
To go faster today and to go that fast in general is really impressive.
And here is CIA. They're actually also looking to improve on their time of 2 minutes 52 seconds from yesterday. It looks like they will come across at a similar time, about 2:51 for CIA. So both teams doing a good job and actually improving by about a second for each team on the finals. So despite the conditions, they buckled down, and a lot of that has to do with both, as we've said before, are uneventful, which is a good thing.
Yes, it's a good thing. You know, it could, if there are incidents, it can be kind of more fun to commentate on. But no, we definitely, it's really nice to see the drivers stay safe and get through the course cleanly. Of course, there's still drops, but it looks everyone's been great so far, and to not see any drops, DQs, is really a first.
And it's a good first.
Yeah, it's a good first. Again, I hope I'm not jinxing anything. Everyone's doing great.
Well, as we look at our unofficial times, as we're watching SDC, we're looking at our unofficial times. At least to us, we have SDC A in first place, followed by SDC B, and then actually SIG EP A would be coming in third.
Yep.
Now, again, that is according to us.
Right.
There is an official. They've got a pretty fancy system set up.
It's
at
really
the,
fancy.
At the start and the finish, and I don't know how it works. I'm just a music major.
Well, I think it's interesting to talk about how it used to work and then to see it now. How it used to be is you'd have to run to chairman's meeting at the beginning of the day, and you'd get these little chips, and you'd just like duct tape them in the front of your buggy. And sometimes drivers didn't know what they were, and you'd see them kind of pick at them, I guess, while they're driving. And so you'd get out and get the driver out and try to get the timing chip, and it would have gotten lost, so a lot of times didn't get tracked properly. It looks like the time between rolls is decreased to 8 minutes, hopefully to help with the weather.
And so with that, we are actually going to be, Jess and I are going to be heading out shortly. We will be joined in the booth, or actually you will be joined in the booth by Mark Estes and Will Weiner. And
Jake Moen.
And Jake Moen, that's right. They will be coming in shortly. As we wrap up the women's, not really many surprises per se.
I'm just surprised they were still able to go that fast today. I mean, that's unusual. So it's good to see. It's nice to see SDC continuing to really push their own limits. And I can't ever really tell if they care what other teams are doing as long as they're not ahead of them. But hopefully they're trying maybe indirectly to push other teams to their limits as well, which is really good for all of Buggy.
And we should also mention, we mentioned it yesterday, to see CIA in the second day in both the men's and the women's is a great thing. That they're an organization that does really put a lot of effort into Buggy, and there's a great community there. To see them here, along with SDC, along with Spirit, who had a great role, and SIGEP, who was able to pull in third there.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Just to be in the second day, to be one of the top 6 teams is great, and congratulations to SDC. And to SIGEP and to all of the teams that raced today.
Yeah, it's great being here too. So thanks to the teams for letting us announce and provide our humble opinions on what's going on the course.
And of course, also thank you to everyone at WRCT, cmuTV, and the Buggy alumni. It's a huge effort that is put out here. As we said before. We are going to be leaving you shortly, and we see some umbrellas out. Hopefully that does not mean that the rain is...
Probably just for fashion.
So we're just waiting for another roll here as we're getting set, but we'd like to... remind everybody to make sure to stay off the course when all the buggies are coming through, and it's even more important. You may be used to sort of being able to walk around between heats when we have the 15-minute gun-to-gun, but unfortunately they are not able. We are really sort of under the gun here to try to get the heats in. It looks like actually it's starting to rain a little bit. And we are going to keep you posted as to the new developments. It does look like the umbrellas are coming out, and hopefully that does not impact the course too much. Can't really get a good weather report other than to look outside the tent.
Right.
We could have weatherwoman Jess out there going, is it raining or not?
Yes, it is. Yeah, Mark says
Weatherman
it is.
Mark Estes says
He's
it
an
is
expert.
raining.
Right.
There was a meeting earlier at about 7:15 or 7:30 or so, chairman's meeting, at which the possibility of a cancellation or something like that was discussed. One of the things that they talked about was wanting to definitely get the women's finals in, which is something that they were able to do, which is great.
And knocking out exhibitions in the process, which can always happen, you know.
And unfortunately, the exhibitions are always
it's
fun.
so much fun. I mean, you know, I say that as someone who gets super heckled when I push at an exhibition, so I like to see other people do it. But yeah, it's nice because then buggies get to roll that didn't necessarily make day 2, and alumni get to come back out and be part of the team. So, but you know, it doesn't happen every year.
Yes, and today, again, we were able to get the women's finals heats. We're looking ahead to the men's heats. We would like to remind you that should the men's heats start, we are going to have just 8 minutes between the starting guns of each heat. So it will be a big... it will be a bit of a crunch there. Right now we're looking at a 15-minute delay before the heats start, and so we will be keeping you posted as to what the developments on the ground. Right now we are going to be switching over to a music video provided for your viewing and listening pleasure by the great folks over at cmuTV, so enjoy.
There's a message in the skies and in the streets. Opportunity, the American dream. It's in the radio and it's superstars, the arteries and veins that feed your heart. From the Dairy Queen to the head of the parade, in a blink your life could change. This could all be yours someday. 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 Oh, 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 oh. Someday. Oh, 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 someday. Oh, 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 someday. Oh, you come as Elvis Presley every Halloween, and dreamers sing alongs, the whole wide world will sing. Into the great unknown, Horatio, desire and ambition fuel this heart. So take a breath and step into the light. Everything will be alright. This could all be yours someday. This could all be yours someday. This could all be yours someday. This could all be yours, all yours someday. Oh, 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 someday. Oh, oh, someday. Oh, someday. This could all be yours someday. This could all be yours someday. This could all be yours someday. This could all be yours, all yours someday. Someday.
cmuTV.
Look at me, oh look at me, is this the way I'll always be? Oh no, now I think that somebody will swiftly come and kidnap me. Oh no, every day a lot of work and praise to God to taste the day. Oh no.
Solutions left but's on fire. Trying to block my shine just ain't gonna happen, so don't try. Every time I get on this microphone, I like to spit. Ink and hit up after hit. This penmanship is so legit, I can't go quit like a prophylactic. Now they riding dicks. Like styling on these suckers out here trying to buy they bitch. Now they rich, try to convince everybody to trick off. But a true boss to pay the cost. She giving away them draws. Word to the Brown James, he's some chicken chow mein. Really, man, you done say the silly things. And the fella ain't a thing. Why you cuffed and claim the thing? Hey, my main thing, got my last name. Yada, yada, man. I'm on my grind, shout it. Don't blow my shine, shout it. Hold up, guess who the shoulder? Rolled up, post up, drop with the doors up. I'm on my grind, shout it. Don't blow my shine, shout it. Wait a minute, shit, a little sit up, shit. I can't live my face no more cause I got too much money. Yeah. A-Town representative. Hold up. East Point, College Park. Decatur. Yeah. I got my armor on. Sword and shield on deck. Yeah.
I try real hard.
They're going slow because they're on it.
Are we on? Hello. All right, we're back live on the air talking about buggy races at Carnegie Mellon. And if you can hear my voice, chances are you're getting wet because it's raining. We're waiting for A, the rain to stop, and B, the track to dry. But until then, let's talk about the women's leaderboard. I'm Mark Estes. Sitting to my right is
Will Weiner.
And we have
Also, Jake Mellon.
All right, Jake, tell us about the women's leaderboard.
Surprisingly not different from yesterday. You thought you might see some shake-up in the back hills there or something, but really
Consistent effort from all the teams.
you see STCB.
Almost copying their time from yesterday. Same with STCA. Singapore dropping a second on a cold morning, which is impressive. And then Spirit A, STCC, and CIA closing out the last three. I believe that's the exact same order from yesterday.
I think so, yeah. We can pull out that exact number from CV, Buggy. It's interesting, though, to look at kind of how these teams have changed from the prelim times. It's interesting, with the cold and all that, sometimes you say you're going to lose a few seconds, but really pretty much identical times. SDCA lost, a third of a second. SDCB pretty much the exact same time, literally 0.04 seconds different. So everybody really rolling just nearly identical.
The bright spot is Singapore losing over a second, but in terms of drastic changes in time, we didn't really see much of that going on.
Nope.
I think had the roads been warmer, had we not started that 8 a.m. with the women's races, we would have seen some definite increase in times. That road heating up really affects those wheels, and that can make a buggy fly down that free roll.
Yep, pretty tight race for fourth there between Spirit A and SDCC. You're down to, 3/10 of a second, which is little. I think somebody either backed up or got faster, but I can't do math in the tenths digit in the morning anymore.
Yeah, it does look like SDCC and Spirit A stayed in the same place. SDCC actually dropped 2 seconds off their time, but not enough to beat out Spirit A.
All right, there you go. So there was a pretty tight bunching back 4th, 5th, 6th yesterday, and
you see
didn't quite get there, but almost got a shift there.
And like I said, I expected to see that shook up today, but, pretty consistent.
Yeah, and, 3 really boring heats from a sort of exciting, spinning-tastic, because that's the whole design of the way they do heats for the finals is you're trying to get a decent race because, there's certainly the adrenaline of having somebody running next to you, particularly front hills, but you're also taking the fastest one.
Okay, and we just got the announcement. Rolls are called off. There will be no men's finals. That is official from sweepstakes. Rolls are called off, everybody. Go home, dry yourselves off, take a nap,
get warm. Yeah.
Get warm, get some coffee, which is, something you never want to see, but safety is paramount.
Right.
Safety is first. And
at this point, it would take too long for the roads to dry. We only have the road permits for a certain amount of time, and by the time I think the roads dry out later tonight, we would not be on the roads anymore.
Right, so then that would make SDCA
the champion of 2012.
Both for men's and women's. So a clean sweep of the front. In fact, you have a fairly dominant, I have to say dominant performance by SDC this year. You've got, about a second and change over Fringe in the men's, and then another second back to their to SDC's B team,
Right.
which
Right.
juggernaut of a team.
Absolutely.
When that's that tight of a gap, it would have been a really fun race today to see those guys duke it out.
Yeah.
It's too bad, and you talk to people on every team, SDC, Fringe, they all wanted to go today, and you hate to see it end this way, but you'd hate to see it end with any sort of crash or injury. So,
Absolutely.
Hats off to Anthony, the chairman, for making the safe call, the right call.
Right.
Hats off to everybody for getting up this morning, coming out here. I blame myself. I just got in the booth, and all of a sudden the rain came down.
It is your fault.
It's probably your fault.
Everybody, it's my fault. Will Weiner. So let's just kind of go over yesterday's standings with the men.
Just a
to let
quick
you
quick
guys
note,
know.
Will, for the people on the course, the roads will open at 9:40 a.m. 9:40 a.m. So if you are on the course or planning to be here, make sure you clear the roads by 9:40 a.m. That's when cars will be let back on the course.
So just let you know the men's, what the final results. They're giving you the top 6 here. SDCA, your champion for 2012, 205, 841. Fringe A, a little bit more, less than a second behind. I can't do math this early in the morning. 207, 134. SDCB, Sig Ep A ends up edging out Pica A. They got a 209, 817. Pica A, 210, 194. Then Fringe B rounding out 6. So it's nice to see them, their B team, moving up a little bit from last year with a 216, 926. What are the big things you guys saw from this year? Expect to see next year from these teams?
Well, the first and foremost, it was great to see Pica out here. They are facing some big challenges, and I think Carnival has always been important to them, and so having them be here was great. I really liked seeing them race. It was really good to see a battle with a second fraternity giving them a run here. So I think this is the first time, probably going back to some point where either DU had a bike or maybe Beta got them one year, or all the way back to the 80s when Sigma Nu actually would challenge Pica, that a fraternity not called Pica wasn't the fast fraternity. In fact, it's been not that long ago that any organization not called Pica wasn't the fastest organization. Pica had the massive streak of 7 wins in a row.
7 wins. They had what they called a dynasty, and
it was they were
impressive.
a juggernaut.
And this is a team that has almost 80 years of experience. They know what they're doing out here, and even including the challenges that they've had, they still get out here and they still push a good time.
And so we got to wrap things up here. We got to make sure our equipment stays dry. But looking at next year, it looks like we might have ourselves some sort of grudge match situation with Fringe and SDC every year, butting heads. Let's see who's able to make that one little push through in technology. Maybe get that one big guy, who shows up freshman year. You wonder why he's going to Carnegie Mellon. It's going to be an exciting race day next year. We thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to go home, get some coffee, cuddle up under a blanket. But thank you for tuning in.
We're not cuddling, sir.
No, we're doing the stale. For Tyler, for Jess, for Jake, for Mark, I'm Will Weiner. We want to thank cmuTV. We want to thank WRCT. We want to thank Sweepstakes. Everybody who came out. Thanks for tuning in to Race Day 2012. Sorry it had to end like this. Goodbye.
Awesome.